about what I was going to say tonight, and I was listening to Pandora. And then, like, that Stand By Me song came on, and I was like, oh yeah, I love this song. And then, like, on Pandora, you know, you can, like, skip songs or whatever. I accidentally skipped it, and I got so mad, so then I, like, looked it up on YouTube, and then I found that video, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I had it, like, on repeat for, like, a good 30 minutes, and I just, that video is so cool. But anyway, okay, so I'm Kaki, and I love church. So, but I didn't always love church. So, I think when I was like a freshman, before I was a freshman, I kind of had this like emptiness inside of me, and I didn't really know what it was, because I had always gone to church, but I didn't really pay attention, I didn't really mean anything to me. But I always had this like emptiness inside of me, and then when I was a freshman, Jason invited me to youth group for the first time, and I was like, we have that? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing, because I knew all my friends went to like youth group with their churches, because like they went to other churches, and their church had youth group because they went to fun churches, and I was Catholic and that was boring. But then I started going to youth group, and that was really fun. And I remember the first time Jason and I were walking in together, and I was like, so what do you do with youth group? And he gave me a really typical like Jason answer, and he goes, talk about God. And I was just like, okay. So I went, and it was really cool because it wasn't like CCD, like boring, where you just like sit and like do stuff out of a workbook. It was like, we were having like discussions and like cracking jokes and stuff like that. And so it was a really good time. And so I was learning a lot about God, but like I was learning about it, like I understood all of it in my mind, but my heart didn't really know how to like take it in. And I think it was because I wasn't really open to it, like spiritually, because I didn't really know how, I guess. And so I still felt like there was something missing. You know, even though I understood who God was, I still felt like there was something missing. And then the summer after freshman year, I went to Camp Forward for the first time. And we had one really like powerful prayer experience, and I remember just praying really hard, and it was a moment of complete like self-abandonment, and I was just like, God, I just want to know that you're there. I just want to know that you care. And I'm tired of being afraid and confused and feeling empty. And I was just completely like willing to just let God in at that moment, and He did. And it was really, I remember like just a wave of peace came over me, and everything that I had felt that was like feeling empty was completely full. And it wasn't, I knew it was real because I didn't have to talk myself into it or like convince myself that God was speaking to me and that God was touching my heart. I knew it because I couldn't talk myself out of it. Like, I didn't have to talk myself into it. I couldn't talk myself out of it. And so I was like, okay, I'm in. Like, whatever it takes. I understand that you're real in my brain, and I know that you're real in my heart, so let's do this. And so that whole summer and like the first half of sophomore year, I was doing a lot of like going to church and going to like youth group and daily mass and praying a lot and just kind of growing the relationship with God that I started that summer. And so I was doing really well, you know, and I grew a lot from there. And then, so halfway through sophomore year, I kind of was going off and then kind of veered off a little bit. I think everything that God had done in my heart the summer before, I kind of like pushed it aside a little bit, but I was like, it's okay because I still know that He's there. It was like this really weird battle between like my brain and my heart, and like somebody somewhere sometimes said something like, you know, a lot of people miss heaven by a foot, the distance between their head and their heart, and that was me a lot. So then like halfway through sophomore year, I got this boyfriend, and I didn't really know how to be in a relationship, so everything we did was just kind of way off and wrong. And we were very centered on ourselves. I think we wanted to be focused on God, but we just kind of weren't, and we were really focused on ourselves, and the relationship became a huge distraction from God for me. But I kind of thought that stupid or like meaningless. And so after I broke up with him, I was really like, there was a lot of confusion, I guess, and anger and loneliness. And I spent a lot of that summer. I knew I was mad because there was all of these things that I did that I knew that I could have not done, that I could have just said no and like walked away from. And it left my heart really broken and really just, I felt like it was just like the worst thing ever, and that how could I ever give my heart back to God when I had done so many things wrong and so many things that had just kind of left it. It felt used, that it wasn't good enough to give back to God. And I remember praying about that one night. And I think, like, for a while I had I was struggling with, I had this image in my head of me trying to give my heart back to Jesus. But I was afraid to because I thought that he would accept it as much because it was so broken. And then one night I was praying about that, and I was like, no, like, take my heart. And I saw myself just kind of like giving my heart to Jesus. And then he took it and he held it right next to his. And that was such a like beautiful experience of healing, and like gave me so much strength that, I can start over from this and I can keep going. And so that whole summer after I broke up with him, I spent really just kind of like reflecting, and because I knew that I could either like just have this terrible thing and have it suck or whatever, or I knew that God had a plan, and I knew that if I stuck to him and I stuck to the church and the sacraments and prayer, that I could grow from it and that I could really take something away from it. And so we spent a lot of time like going to Mass and writing stuff down and like writing letters to Jesus, and I think that helped me grow so much, because in really like getting into what I actually thought, I learned that you have to be honest with yourself, and that you can't lie to God. Like, if you're lying to yourself, and you're telling yourself all these things that you want to convince yourself that they're true, you're going to be praying for the wrong things. Like, at least that's what I did. And you can't lie to God, because God knows. Like, that's dumb. So I really learned that it taught me so much to be honest with myself, and that there is true joy in just letting God work through even things that you think are just terrible situations. And then junior year came along, and I think all the juniors in this room will agree that junior year is like the hardest. Like, am I right? Yeah, like so hard. And my junior year was so hard. Like, school was hard. School was just so hard. And I completely overcommitted myself to different things. Like, I was in band, and I was also with jazz band, and then I was doing like everything at church. So I had something every single night, and then my family was like, "You're never around anymore." So I was so stressed out from that, that I was doing so many things to like kind of satisfy everyone that I was committing myself to, and it was just really stressful and it was hard, and I didn't know how to work God into that, I guess. But I was really lucky because, well, first it was kind of hard because I just broke up with that guy. And then my best friend, she lives 45 minutes away, so we don't really get to see each other often. And then that year, like right after I had broken up with that guy, she got a boyfriend. So that's kind of where she was spending her time. And I was like, I was a but I got to go to the March for Life in DC, and that was like such a super fun trip. Like I didn't know what to expect before I went on it, and I was like, go to DC. And then it was so eye-opening to see like so many people who are like willing to be involved in the pro-life movement, and so many people who were okay with like standing up for that. And it was just a really beautiful experience. It's really like hard to describe. It was so meaningful. And then like I was in CIA for the second year this year, and I don't think I will ever forget the first confirmation retreat this year. The Saturday night of that retreat, like, I don't think I've ever been in like any kind of emotional, like, so, like, I don't know who's there, I was laughing, but it was like the most emotionally, like, heavy experience I've ever been in, because, like, I'm not super emotional, like, I don't really cry that often, or, like, whatever, but I'm kneeling there, and, like, yeah, like, I'm kneeling there, and, like, everyone around me just starts crying, and I was, like, so thankful for that, because I could tell that the Holy Spirit was moving through, like, the whole retreat, like, so much, and I was so thankful for that. And, like, so I'm sitting and I'm smiling. Everyone else is crying, and I'm kneeling, and I'm just praying for everyone, and I'm smiling, and I'm like, oh, this is so nice, like, I'm just so happy for everyone, and then it was like God kind of took, like, a little, like, cup of, like, joy, and, like, just kind of poured it on my head, and so I'm like, oh, this is nice. And then, like, it, like, escalated. It was crazy. Like, people around me started crying more, and I think as like, much as everyone else was crying, I was, like, happy. Like, so it was, like, first he, like, poured a cup on me, and then it was, like, God got a super soaker, and was, like, like, all this joy, and so I'm kneeling, and I'm, like, singing, like, there's music going on, and I'm, like, singing, you know, and I kind of, like, put my hands up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, like, everything is going so well, like, so much joy in my heart, and then, like, everyone around me was just, like, crying even more, and people were, like, holding each other, and it was so beautiful, like, I'm freaking out just, like, talking about it. It was awesome! And, like, so everyone's crying, and, like, watching everyone, and I'm, like, smiling, like, trying not to, like, burst out with, like, laughter, just in pure joy of, like, how beautiful everything was, because everybody was just so, like, open to God. And then, like, have you ever been to a water park where they have, like, one of those huge buckets, and it, like, it fills with water, and then every, like, 5 minutes it just dumps, like, everywhere? You know, so, like, it's like one of those, so I'm just sitting there, and, like, singing and praying, and I'm, like, really happy, and then it's, like, one of those came over me, and I'm drenched in, like, God's grace and God's love and, like, joy, and I throw my hands in the air, and I'm singing, and I'm like, it was so cool, and everyone's crying so hard. And then we all lived happily ever after and left. Anyway, it's one of the whole story. But I feel like all of my whole, like, journey with Jesus up until, like, then, like, was leading up to that, because it was like, there's so much joy found when you are committed to a relationship with God. And it was totally revealed to me that night, and it was so awesome. And the only response to that is, like, I had all this love of God in me. The only response to that is to just, like, love everyone else around me. And I think a really, like, cool, like, thing of that, like, happened was, so, like, okay, I have a little brother, and he's a freshman. And this year, like, my parents both got new jobs, and so they're both working full-time. My older brother's off to college, so he's not here. So I kind of had to, like, keep track of him a lot, and I've had to know, like, when he has dance practice, and what time he gets out of school, and when I have to drop him off at this, and when I have to pick him up at this. And, like, at first I was like, this is so awful. Like, it was so selfish of me. I was like, no, I just want to do what I want. Like, nobody bother me. Just let me do my thing. But then, like, I still had to take the places and stuff. And now you are also called in one body, and be thankful. And it like sums up my whole life. Like the peace part, like how I just like found that peace at the beginning when I first like realized who God was and how much He loved me. And then peace, you were also called into one body, like such an amazing like community and so many amazing people that I've met. And be thankful.